Hi, this is Cecilia Dane. I'm continuing my journal about separating from my partner 15 years. This is my way of continuing to experiment with vulnerability and hopefully modeling how, as scary as it feels, as weak as it makes me feel sometimes, it's actually a courageous thing to be connected to the vulnerable emotions, the sadness, and the grief. I wish I could say that it is an upward trending emotion and things get better every day. But like anything, and like we know about grieving and the 7 stages, that it's always an up and down, back and forth. It's not a linear process. So today I'm finding myself feeling more down and more weighed down by grief and sadness than I was the last time I was recording. And in particular, I know that my own body cycle is also participating in this process. Like I know my period is coming in a couple of days, and usually there's a period where I'm especially connected with some of the negative feelings. They can become very heightened. So just becoming aware that even though it's a very real feeling and experience, that it is temporary and it will pass, and I have memories of it passing in the past. So I'm not as intimidated by it, even though it is a very uncomfortable feeling. I'm continuing to following my schedule of going to kickboxing and making sure I swim in the morning and have my dogs. Also makes me, no matter how tired or down I am, needing to keep to the schedule of at least 2 walks a day. I know part of the reason why it's especially hard today is yesterday on a Sunday, we usually have, the only thing we kept as a family unit was my daughter that we do on a regular basis. It's a Sunday lunch. And as I talk about that, that's especially painful because it's such a kind of peaceful and beautiful and delicious tradition, because there is a cafe we all enjoy with choices for everyone, vegan, seafood, and whatever my 7-year-old happens to like at the moment. And it just once again reminded me how difficult it is to be in the presence of someone I so badly want to connect. And it's not because I do not love this person that we were separated. It's because I was not able to receive the signal of connection, of being responded to. When for example, I'm off in the last few months of time together because of the transition my body is going through with a lot of perimenopausal changes. I'm often feeling a little bit emotional. I have tears coming, and I would reach out to my partner and I would express my needs in a vulnerable and using I statement, as I often teach my clients, and to say I need your support, or I need your hugs, or just being next to me, and I need time to talk and just share my feelings, which is something that I think I have probably done very infrequently, because I know how much he can be busy or not available for that. And I try to restrict that to just a date night, which we have once a week or twice a month. But those became very difficult as the more and more I can feel the disconnection that was always there, that I tried to cover with my levity or humor, and not to go to some of the other feelings I have alongside the positive and the strength, and it become very, it become a physical starvation. And So yesterday I started feeling that again, the sense of never been truly connected. And even in the moments where all the wonderful things I cherish about what I've learned from my partner, the hiking, the nature, the biking, that I think that was really where I fell in love. And feeling for the first time I could just enjoy and not be rushed to accomplish or to measure up to things. So there's a lot of things I was very grateful for. I'm still very grateful for. But it was very difficult to feel that deprivation, and particularly when the sadness of the separation is not shared. Of course, it makes sense that the difficulty to connect, to feel these sad or or you can call it negative feelings, but like to think of vulnerable feelings is what separates us in the first place. Because I believe it takes strength and it takes willingness to go inside to feel these. And but here I think I was connecting with my own inability to let go of the fact that I still needed him to show that he also cares enough that we're separating, even if it doesn't mean we need to do any work or make any effort to continue this journey, but to be able to at least share some grieving process with the only person who in some ways understands what's going on, because we share this separation as partner. It would be validating. It would be connecting, and it would be very comforting to know that I'm not the only one who cares about what we have shared, and I'm not the only one who might suffer from knowing that we are putting our relationship and our daughter through a very difficult time. And I'm not the only one who might feel alone sometimes. And I know that these are all the feelings my body was really out of habit seek out my attachment figure to process, even though my mind very much knows that this is the very reason we couldn't be together. So how can it be rational to seek out the person who's not available to provide this in the first place? So this cognitive dissonance, just wanting him to still be that person who provides connection, validation, and at the same time having decided that it's just too much effort to continue to seek something the other person is not willing or simply incapable of providing. So I'm learning to process this on my own, and I seek out lots of support from friends and from my therapist. And I'm very fortunate to have friends who are either therapists or not, who are good listeners and who really makes me feel strong in my vulnerability rather than unwanted and abandoned. And at the same time, I understand that there is no better or worse, and I know my way of processing is not necessarily better than my partner's way. It's simply that we have a very much of a mismatch, and I'm really trying to understand and respect the fact that he is healing and dealing with his emotions in his own private way, and it's certainly not something he could tolerate to share and connect that way. As long as it is, as we say, ego-syntonic, or does not cause him too much discomfort, so that he can function well in his job and in his role as a parent. then I should be happy for him, even as I'm extremely sad and feeling unseen and invalidated in my own grieving process. But then again, that's nothing new. That's the reason why I left. So this is, perhaps even more vulnerable than I usually allow myself to appear. And I have to be grateful that it takes a crisis and an event that pushes me beyond my normal state of pain to give me the courage to show this aspect of myself and to allow myself to be more vulnerable with my friends as well in the ways that I've never been able to be before. Because I always, give myself this task of needing to appear perfect and being the strong one that holds things together and intellectualize things, rationalize things. Of course, in my role as a therapist, I'm the one who holds that space for my client, and I'm the one who will be there to be the calm one, to be empathetic at the same time, being able to be a holding and safe place for my client. And it's interesting, no matter how heavy I feel of my own pain, I'm proud to say it only makes me feel more present, more capable of honesty, and more brave in connecting, and more focused in providing that attention for my clients. And of course, this topic never comes up in my session with them because those are time about them. And I'm so afraid that, that would take over in any way. So I'm very careful about what is the way that I appear to my clients, so that I am present, vulnerable, without taking the attention away from them. The only thing that I have, and I probably might be a little bit of a broken clock when it comes to sharing the fear about that if my partner chooses to process everything on his own and having no support of other channel. I'm not clear if he's still connecting with his therapist. I really hope he would be, but if he chooses not to, and if he's managing everything himself, as he's, I think, very capable in general of self-regulation, then I'm just hoping that my daughter does not unconsciously become that holding space. Because I've had several clients where when the marriage either fell apart or doesn't really work, but still the couple stayed together, the child would instinctually pick up on the fact that they're the only one of the parent could rely on. So they have so much pressure to give up a certain part of themselves so they could be there for that parent. And all of this is unspoken. All of this is not some explicit expectation that some parent put on the child. Although that I have certainly seen happen as well, but mostly that even with very conscientious, caring, and capable parents, it can create that dynamic where the child is parentified and triangulated and become really made to mature too fast in this situation. And that guilt I carry with me because I know that I have chosen to give myself space to grow outside of this partnership. And I think about how I used to use levity and humor and positivity to glide over certain difficult emotions, because over the years I have gathered that those are not welcomed and tolerated. And even if there was no argument or violence or put downs, which, my partner was never violent emotionally, overtly, or physically, certainly. But there is that unconscious awareness that it's not welcomed and it will be avoided. And so in order to avoid abandonment, it's very natural to not show that aspect of yourself. So when I think about that, I see that in my daughter. I see how she would instantly perk up when she sees us, even if she's maybe having a thoughtful moment or a sad moment. And she's never, except in some cases in involvement with other friends or teachers, that she might, ask me for comfort. But when it comes to this situation, even though we have set her down and shared with her, I know that when me and my partner together, we're not showing a somatic way of expressing sadness. We intellectualize, or in some ways, because it was not a safe space when I'm with my partner to show emotion. So we intellectually or theoretically talk about this as a sad situation, and she's allowed to be sad. But she hasn't seen us being sad or even cry or even show some vulnerable emotions. But how to balance letting her see that we're okay to feel those emotions versus making her feel she is in some way responsible for taking care of us is a struggle I'm still trying to figure out. Over the weekend, there was one moment I finally just shared with her and allowed myself to share some tears in front of her in saying, this is a very sad situation. Mommy is heartbroken. I still care about Daddy and you very much. It's just we're not able to work together, and I'm sorry that you have to go through this. And immediately my daughter was able to somatically show she was sad, and she let tears out for the first time about the situation. But I also noticed she was verbally expressing my kind of sadness. She started saying, she didn't spend enough quality time with Daddy, which I know was not true. I know that my partner is a good dad and they do spend a lot of time together. So I was suspecting that my daughter was taking my sense of isolation from my partner and being so empathetic that she is in some ways not able to tell her feelings apart from me. And of course, that's one of the reasons I also suspect that my partner can feel overwhelmed with other people's feelings, so that he instinctually rejects it so that he doesn't have to go through that again, something he might have gone through in his childhood. So I had to immediately, kind of recalibrate myself and let my daughter know I'm okay, that she doesn't have to take on my cause, and she has a completely separate relationship with Dad. And regardless what might happen in the future, regardless of my fear, and this part, of course, I didn't share with my daughter, that my husband will eventually also choose to disconnect from my daughter because he has disconnected from his now grown-up children due to the fact that there was distance, there was avoidance of the previous partnership, and there was this inability to reconcile the fact that you can be in a very imperfect situation and still stay connected. So in many ways, he all but has disconnected from his other previous twin children, and I know it's been very painful for them. And so I do have this fear that once, as my daughter grow, or if we become in separate locations, that disconnect will repeat itself. I cannot let that overtake me in just letting her enjoy whatever connection she still has, and which is a great connection with her father. And I want her to be able to have that for as long as she can. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to move out myself, because I know I'll always be present for her, no matter how imperfect and messy the situation is, I won't let it get in the way of that. And I cannot trust my partner to do that without being physically there with her every day. So it's a tough day, as you can see from the endless stream of tears, which I normally much better holding back, and I'm letting myself do this. But I'm also taking time to take care of myself, and just making sure I have a routine that I follow. I did kickboxing last night, to kind of get some of that emotion, some of the aggressive, some of the fear and anger. I also suspect that this obsession that I had was getting his validation, even though I know it's completely not just impossible, but irrational. It's part of my own displacement of this feeling of this guilt that why did I give up? Why did I not keep on going to couple therapy? And why did I? Because there's always hope, right? There's always hope that if we have the right therapy, we have the right time, we have the right patience, if we just dedicate enough, we would be able to uncover things that is buried and does exist, but simply hasn't had the chance to be safely let out. And I chose to end that because I can feel the cumulative effort of the last 15 years of trying to get close and not really getting, despite progress, I'm sure, on both of us in terms of what I wasn't doing right, in terms of what he needed to improve. I'm sure we both progressed, but I just still felt such a huge gap, and I chose to give up. And it's that guilt maybe that I am displacing onto him and questioning why that it all could be given up like this. But I also don't honestly regret it, because I know that to not give up means I need to continue over functioning, something I have been doing, and I know a lot of women do in their marriages, or not necessarily women, or some male partners who might play the pursuer role, the more emotionally present role. It's just probability-wise, it tend to be the women, and then we, due to society's limitation, our gender, and shaping us and instilling negative schemas in our mind, we tend to overfunction. We tend to feel I need to go the extra mile in order to get a little bit of what I want. So I know that, yes, there's hope, but it also means I have to continue to pay the price of putting his career, his emotions, and how to connect with him as a primary, so that everything else revolve around that. Whereas since I have left a few months ago, I'm able to put more of my career, more of my own emotional processing and caretaking and connection, instead of expending more energy based on what he needs for this relationship to work. So, of course, I'm not putting that responsibility onto him, because a lot of that is the upbringing I had in terms of feeling I need to do more to deserve to feel good enough. I need to keep on working harder, get the perfect grade, so that maybe dad could finally see me and love me in the way I want. So there's a lot of transference of that hope, that unfulfilled wish, the one that could probably never be fulfilled now that, my mom has died and my dad is still relatively healthy, but not really ever going to be emotionally fully present there, and also dealing with his own mental health issues. So I recognize there's a lot of that weight I inadvertently put on the partner who was less equipped to cope with it than perhaps than someone else who would be more willing to connect with their emotions. And maybe to be fair, he really never should have feel obligated to do that if he needs what he needs is different from what I need. And regardless if I think it's healthy or not, if it's, as I say, ego is in tonic for him to cope with life that way, then I have to respect that that's what he chooses, and that's the path of least resistance for him. Whereas for me, it feels an uphill battle every day. And as I affirm my own choice, I also affirm his. And ultimately, we can each set our own boundaries and recognize what's our priority. And we always have the choice to walk away. So until I know that his presence can stop perhaps stirring up the sense of deprivation I have felt for the past decade and a half, I might need to draw some further boundary of not appearing in those family breakfasts, because in some ways we're trying to put up some appearance that we're still a family for our daughter's sake. But when we are really there, kind of just bodies sitting next to each other but not really connecting, I wonder really if it's doing more harm than good for our daughter by pretending things are okay or the same when they really aren't. We're no longer a family. So that's where I am today. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to show vulnerability. And I hope that it provides some kind of connection and encouragement in whatever life's challenge or life has put in your way as a challenge. Remember, I always think that when we hit bottom, it's this clear sense that this is a growth opportunity, because it's only in these moments that, as they say, spiritually, we can open up more for growth, for pushing our own boundaries in what previously was unavailable and unopened. And I truly feel to be able to be more connected and braver to show my vulnerability is what's my own boundary pushing this moment. And there's much more to come, I'm sure. Take care.